All right, we are live and good to go. So today, our spicy hot take to kick things off, we got Mandy Thompson, co-founder and CEO of Digital Reach Online Solutions, talking about your ABM strategy is outdated.
Thanks for having me here. Well, I guess I'll jump right into it since we don't have a ton of time and there are so many things we could talk about, but we'll keep it short. Yep, here we are with the session. Your ABM strategy is outdated. It probably is, and I'm going to tell you why in just a few slides and a tiny bit of additional information about me. There's an interesting fact that before starting or before really building up this company, I was aspiring to become a professional beach volleyball player. So I love playing competitive beach doubles in my off time, which I don't always have a ton of these days, but when I do, I enjoy playing and watching the game. Okay, so where does this come from? Why am I focused on this topic? I'm very passionate about account based marketing, account based sales, and really account based experience because I think that for many B2B organizations, it's the best way to engage with their customer. But so many organizations get it wrong. I've worked with SMBs, mid market, enterprise. I've worked in different verticals and industries. I've worked in professional services. I've worked with SaaS companies, manufacturing companies. And no matter what size or type of company I work with, there are several things that cause their strategies to be outdated. Okay. So the first one we're going to cover is lack of alignment, right? And when we say all revenue teams, oftentimes when we talk about ABM or revenue operations, while everybody says that customer success is a part of that, oftentimes it all of the focus ends up going on sales and marketing. So when we say all revenue teams, we really mean that, and that isn't just even the sales, marketing, and CS team. It can be your onboarding team, anybody who at some point is going to have contact with your customer, right? And so getting aligned around ICPs and really understanding who it is you're reaching. I know that sounds pretty basic, but with so much intent data, install data, firmographic data available and at our fingertips through a number of tools and technologies, we can actually be on very different pages. So that's like a base level, like how do we make sure our strategy is good? Well, we're all rowing in the same direction, right? And then we have our goals and what success means. And so one team might be thinking, okay, well, our goal right now is we want to get more accounts in front of sales. And it's like, okay, but that's not enough information. We need to know at what point do we want to get them in front of sales, and what does success mean? Does success mean that we built a buying committee, that we had an initial phone call, that we have revenue in the pipeline, that we're expanding our contracts, that we're retaining, that we're reducing churn? And so what is the success of this program? And where we see a lot of failure and where we are outdated is that we're focused a lot on ABM only and not focused on that handoff to ABS. And so, okay, great. We have now engaged an account. We've got our air cover. We have all of these campaigns running. It's beautiful, but is sales getting people at the right time? What is the right time? Is everyone on the same page about what that is? So this is another way that we see a lot of ABM strategies outdated. And then again, they were not focusing on ABX, and that's a more emerging term. ABM and ABS have been around for a very long time, but ABX, how do we look at this as an overall customer experience? And as I mentioned, all of those revenue teams, how can we think about the entire account, not just for marketing and getting them engaged and aware of our brand and our services, and then working through the sales process and handing them over to CS, but how do we think about, like, if somebody who is currently somebody who is engaged with our product, they're visiting certain pages on our website, how do we make sure that their needs are met? How do we make sure if a new team is reaching out that we help to align the teams within that organization or the business units within that organization that might not be aware of one another's activities, right? So when we think about ABM, we've got to think bigger, and that's why I say most strategies are outdated, because they're just thinking about that marketing component. If they're slightly more advanced, they're onto that sales component, but the full ABX is a place where a lot of companies and organizations are behind. So what we often see is that we all try to throw tech at our problems, right? I've been guilty of it. We've all been guilty of it. But the thing is, it doesn't fix an alignment problem. And alignment usually starts with definitions and strategy, right? And what I mean by that is if we're thinking about, okay, marketing's running an ABM, and so we have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom funnel, or maybe we're focusing on it based on life cycle stage. All right. So what is the definition of a buying committee? How many people with buying roles, or which buying roles need to be at what funnel stage, and or at what life cycle stage? How are we defining that? Is it lead score? Is it behavior? Is it engagement? What is our definition? And is everybody on the same page of how we are moving people through that initial process of onboarding someone for new business? And then we look at, when we're looking at account-based experience, again, how are we defining success? How are we defining the milestones and touch points where we're going to engage accounts and be aware of our accounts so that we can continue this account-based experience beyond just that initial sale, right? And so tech doesn't fix that. Tech can help us to implement and deploy, but we have to all be on the same page. And so that alignment, right? That's why I have this point here that alignment is layered, because now we get into, okay, we have alignment. We're all on the same page on strategy and on definitions, but okay, execution. Are we being realistic with our marketing operations team? Since 80% of the buying process is done before sales is getting in front of somebody in a B2B sale most of the time. How resourced is our marketing department? How realistic are we about how many ICPs we want to target, and how many different buying roles and unique campaigns and retargeting efforts and different creative and media that we want to run? We want to make sure that not only are we aligned on strategy, but that we can actually execute. And then when are we iterating? What do we decide that we're iterating based on? And how are we going to continue to improve this? This is not just like anything in marketing, sales, and revenue. It's not one and done. So most of the organizations I see, we don't have these plans in place for realistic resourcing, ongoing growth, and progression of the campaigns. And so we have got to make sure that in addition to that, we're thinking about the campaigns after the initial sale, or else we're missing out on the benefit of an ABM-ABS strategy, because as we all know, it is 7 times more expensive to get new business than to expand the accounts that we already have, prevent churn, all of that fun stuff. So in practice, what do? You need to get all of the stakeholders to the table and have open conversations where people, setting up a context of, mutual accountability, where people have a platform to actually speak their minds, be truthful about marketing, saying, hey, I don't think we have the resources to run these 16 different campaigns right now. So let's start here. Let's build up and show ROI, and then let's add the next piece to this. Okay. And so then once you have all of that figured out, then you figure out, what technology do we have? What do we need? What is our timeline going to be? Right. And then understanding success, get everybody on the same page about what success is, not only with the marketing piece, but the sales and the overall experience as well in those stages, and make sure that your definitions and that strategy and what everybody wants to see out of these efforts is aligned, and that you have a plan for ongoing iterations. And again, it doesn't have to be everything at once. Let's start with, hey, when we have these 2 buying roles, like, let's focus on getting these 2 buying roles engaged in this lead score or this account score before we're bringing in sales. And then let's see how we do. Oh, that was too early, or it was too late, or we need this stakeholder as well. Okay, let's make some adjustments to the campaign, see how this impacts our pipeline, and continue to build on things from there. Because if you take it step by step, you get everybody to the table, and we're truly aligned across all of these different areas, not just, okay, we're going to get a list of target accounts and domains, and we're going to go after the VP of sales and the VP of marketing and the head of finance, and we're going to serve them each a little bit of different content. And then when one person downloads an ebook, we're going to send it over to sales and have them start building a buying committee. That's not really running ABM, ABS, and ABX properly. And there we are at 10 minutes. From this point, if anybody has any questions or anything that I can answer as far as how to actually do this in practice, or any places that you get stuck, we have 5 more minutes to be able to cover any of that.
Cool. And one other thing to note, Mandy's also provided a downloadable document. So if you visit the expo session at any time during Hot Takes Live, or you can log back in afterwards and go to the Digital Reach Online Solutions booth. So when you go to Expo, you'll see all the companies that are presenting. When you go to Digital Reach Online Solutions, you'll be able to access that document. Any specific insights on that document that's shared, that how it can help a team guide their ABM strategy?
That is a really great point. And look at me being a bad marketer, right? I didn't even remember the resource part. I was so focused on like getting everything done in 10 minutes. So on that document, what we have is, we have some key automations that you can build. It's focused in HubSpot because that's where we're deploying our ABM, ABS, ABX strategies for our clients, but some automations that can really help with all of that alignment. We have some video guides on how to build out these strategies. And then we also have some software comparisons if you're looking at building your tech stack based on kind of what your goals are, what the marketing motions and sales motions are that you're running. There are some resources there. So yeah, lots of fun stuff on that document. And then of course, if anyone has questions, you can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask away. But yeah, if you have any questions here, I'm happy to help. Otherwise, um, yeah, the resource will be there.
Awesome. And I think we only got a few more minutes. One that that takeaway, and curious if you have any tips kind of going into organizations to create kind of the ABM ABS strategy, is where to get started. I think that there's a lot of people that get overwhelmed by what that needs to be done to like kind of like get better at ICP creation and narrowing down like um, the list of the companies that they should target. Like what are kind of what's a typical starting point in a strategy that you could provide some tips for someone that's just getting started with a strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, depending on where your organization is at in its growth stage, right? If you already have the data around, the accounts that you're most likely to close, that close at the deal size and velocity that you're looking for, then that's going to give you a great indicator. If you're creating your own category or you're newer to the market, that you're going to have to take a look at based on your market research, who do you think is going to be the best fit based on that data? And then depending on what your product is, right? Obviously, starting with the ICP is really important and starting with a manageable number of accounts. And so I think that you need to go wide enough to be able to collect data that is going to be meaningful, but you need to be narrow enough to actually understand what is working. And so and then that also has some variables to it as well. And so depending on how much budget are you going to have to be able to deploy and reach this ICP, right? Like getting all of those variables in place. So I would say, to answer your question directly, rather than jumping straight into ICPs, I think that getting clear on the amount of resources that you have, both from a monetary standpoint and what you're going to be able to spend to get yourself in front of these people. Are you already getting in front of some of these people from your own strategies, right? And so how much time and marketing headcount do you have to put towards these efforts? So then you can decide, all right, like what size, and then of course how large our sales team is that's going to be working with the target accounts that we're focusing on. And so I think that laying the groundwork there, and then from there digging into finding out who the right ICP is and what information you should use. Whether if you're a SaaS product like Breadcrumbs, right? Like there is likely going to be some intent data, but also some install data, right? You might be more compatible with companies that are already using certain software, and so I would say start with a smaller list and enrich it as much as you can with those layers of information, because then you can be more targeted and you're likely to have more success, and then you can expand out from there to people that maybe aren't showing intent, that are going to be higher in the funnel, or people that don't have particular pieces of tech that might not give you as many indicators about how your tool might fit into their overall tech stack and strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest takeaway that I personally have also seen from experience is it's definitely putting the time and effort in up front to figure these things out. But then
Yes.
once you do, like that cross team alignment, that the SDRs, that sales team, that marketing, that everyone's aligned on, not only the accounts that you're going after, but more specifically, like what are the attributes an action set that kind of determine success that they should be looking for. So I think we are at time. I appreciate it. It's always hard to cram these in a short period of time, but check out the resource, the expo section for the document, and also connect with Mandy if you have any questions or want to continue the conversation.
All right. Thanks so much, Adam. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.